have one new voice message. To play your messages, press 1. To record a message, press 2. New message sent by 250737200. Hi, Shannon. It's Heather Craig calling from Shannon Lake School. I did get a call back from the microbiologist at the lab in BGH who has now told me, sorry, from the BC CDC lab that they didn't have anything in their system. CDH, nothing in their system. BGH, her name's there, but nothing's been done, and the swabs were in the rejected bin. To now it has been checked, and it's a presumptive negative. And then I was, sort of chastised because they were told that I was sending swabs from everyone who had made the contact. True, that's one set of swabs. So I think I've got that sorted, and I've got this result, but not sure why it wouldn't show up anywhere that the test has been run, or that you're looking at it. That's a bit concerning. But thank you very much for calling back. And if you still want to chat, I'm here until 4:30. 250-743-6208. To replay this message deleted.
Hi, Heidi. This is Shannon calling back just to chat with Heather.
Okay, I'll put you through. One moment.
Thanks. Hi, Heather. It's Shannon Waters calling back.
Oh, hi. Good to meet you. So I actually had a phone call from a microbiologist at BGH.
Probably Andre Massaji.
Oh, that sounds right.
Yep. Yeah.
I think what he's saying his name was. So he's telling me this is presumptive negative. Is that because they don't think she meets the criteria, or there's actually been some tests, like there's a preliminary result?
Yeah, so that's when I heard your message, I thought I would just call and clarify on that. So we are in the midst of developing our own test for Vancouver Island. So that's what Andre and his team are doing. And so up to this point, we've had to send everything to BC CDC for verification. And so the lab test that Andre's talking about doesn't show up in the system because it's a test they're still quote unquote developing, so that we have our own test on the island. So he's been running the things that have come through, and it's negative on that result, which, I mean, it's negative, but at this point we're still sending to the BC CDC for verification. But yeah, so I thought I'd just explain that. So and it's hoped to, like, in the coming days, like, our test will be quote unquote verified, but at this point we're still in that in-between step.
Fair enough. Okay, that's great. It sort of got a bit frustrating because suddenly I was told, oh, BC CDC said, yeah, we have no knowledge of a swab coming from that person. CDH said, oh, we sent it to BGH, and then I talked to a lab tech, and she said, oh, my colleagues at lunch, but I can see the swabs are sitting in a basket that are rejected specimens. I said, what are you talking about? She said, there's no results at all in the system. So it was I thought for a second you're back to square one, but I appreciate the call from Dr. Massaji. But he also sort of started this conversation with me by saying, you can't just send all these swabs here for people who have no symptoms just because you think they've been in contact with someone who you think might have. I said, well, I don't even know what you're talking about. I said one set of swabs. So we had to dial him back. He said, I heard that you are sending swabs from everyone that this person's been in contact with. Oh. I said, from who did you hear that from? It's ridiculous. And it was funny. So we sorted that out, and he was very funny at the end of the thing by saying, I said, no, here's what I did, here's why I did it, here's how I spoke to it. He said, oh, good job, high
five. He's an interesting character.
Came from.
No, I think he's an interesting character, and he's like, I can't even imagine how many swabs they've received there. I think, yeah, I don't know, he maybe was confused with something else, but yeah, I'm glad to hear that, because when I got the message from Shelley, I was like, oh, I wonder if it's Andre who's called her. So I'm glad, because he's the guy who's in the lab with those. So glad to hear presumptive negative. And yeah, that's just because we're validating our tests currently. And I think he must have just been confused. Sorry about it. Okay.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, talk to you later.
You bet, bye-bye.
Bye.
Ah, you're already here. Isn't that
But we got like a
No,
couple minutes here.
I'm good. I'm good. You can talk as much as you want to.
So can you say that last part again about, okay, so that what you've seen through this conversation
Yeah.
is that basically we need to look at the structures. How do we treat the structures to help us better honor the body of the region we are in?
That's what I'm hearing in terms of the scope of your work right now.
Yeah.
That the leadership piece of you, that's kind of the call on your time right now in terms of impact. Knowing you can make impact in lots of ways, but there's something deeply rooted inside of you around this. And it's that whole piece of the land as the body.
So 3 areas that like Shar and I have talked about are so what I said around the drinking water legislation.
Mm-hmm.
I have and then I have this talk that I've developed, which I'm sharing. And so this is, kind of where you're saying access points for getting my message out. So I sit on the Couch and Watershed Board, and they have a speaker series, and they invited me to come speak at the end of this month, so March 26th. And I have a couple little like talks or whatever, which is one thing that Shar has helped me with, because I used to be all over the place, So I have one called Indigenous Sovereignty is Sustainability.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm going to present this talk on March 26th. And like, as per Shar's usual fashion, like she gets, where are your spots? What are you doing in your first quarter, your second quarter, whatever? And I'm like, yeah, I'm just going to take the first quarter, like really like cruisy. I'm writing my articles, whatever, like feeling like, yeah, I'm doing stuff. And then I mentioned, oh, I was actually invited to maybe speak on March 26th, but I'm not so sure. Like maybe it's not quite ready for that point. And then, she quietly listens to me and she's like, do you want my opinion? I'm like, yeah. She's like, well, I think you need to do that, talk on March 26th. She's like, I'm going to be on the island because of that entrepreneurial summit. I'll come. And I think you should invite the mayors who you're concerned about to the session, like just go full hog. And I'm like, okay, here she is illuminating to me again. Like I'm trying like, kind of, who am I? Like step back. And then when she reflects that back to me, I'm like, yeah, you know what? So I'm like, all right, I'm going to, go what's the word? Well, we're going to go through the first quarter with a bang, right? Like, here we go, like, March 26th. So, like, I feel a little bit of apprehension, but I'm also like, yeah, like, kind of seeing the magic in that. Yep. This is good. And so that conversation is kind of looking at where there's this United Nations report on biodiversity and ecosystem services, which shows that, and it's an unprecedented report with 150 authors, that land that has been managed, occupied, governed, or like, run by indigenous groups is in better condition than other land.
Right.
And so like I basically equate that to like being a Hulkamina woman in my home territory, and basically what's happened with land expropriation. And we're now in our modern treaty process where we have no land that we can really negotiate on, because there's next to no crown land in the Cowichan Valley region because it was all expropriated for the ENN railway grant. But the elders had given the input that they wanted to have meaningful say in 100% of our traditional territory. So this is feedback from elders that happened like over the past 20 years of treaty negotiations. Treaty is not a quick process, but so like I've basically brought that forward. Okay, community, like, okay, we're in this treaty process. Most people are like, whoa, treaty, that's so complicated. What does it mean for, the local indigenous peoples here to have meaningful say in 100% of the territory in terms of how we use our resources? And so I sit on the Watershed Board, which is co-chaired by Cowichan tribes in the Cowichan Valley Regional District. This was a governance model that was devised by a friend of mine, and like I see the wisdom in it now, because like unless you're co-chairing, if Indigenous people are just simply around the table, they can be completely sidelined. But when you're co-chairing things, like your viewpoint has to be there, and it's a weaving together of the viewpoints. So the Watershed Board has now been in existence for 10 years. And I'm like, it's now time to move beyond the water, because the water is connected to everything else. We need to look at the forestry land. Like we have a lot of Timber West and timberland land in our territory. So how do we look at co-managing the forest land? And so this is what I'm going to speak to at the end of the month, which is a little bit edgy because like this is, you know, some people are going to be like, what? But anyway, I'll go there. So that's my second message. And then the third one, I guess why I got on this very long tangent, is because I'm thinking of like practically when, you know, I'm spending some time with you, which I'm very much looking forward to in August at the writing retreat. So the third, because Char's like, well, what's the third conversation? Like, because we were both like, there's a third one. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh, Char, like it's the woman's walk. So I mentioned to you about ancestral stories. So our origin myth as Cowichan people talks about those who fell from the sky. So in most versions of the story, it's men who fell from the sky. They walked along the territory, they got to know it, and they were, you know, carved out a life. And then there was women who were in Souk, who heard there was men in Cowichan, and they determined to walk from Souk to Cowichan to meet husbands and start new lives. And so at a certain point, I think I told you, like I left an organization, the First Nations Health Authority, because, you know, people like, partially because I was a woman and it was ugly, and you know, someone said, well, look at your ancestral myth. And I was like really angry when I read the myth again, because it was like, here these women were walking to go find men and whatever, and you know, the men necessarily weren't that welcoming to be like, do I really want a wife when the woman first came? So they were trying to convince them that the men wanted wives, and so it just was really irritating to me. But then in and around that time, I suddenly realized, like, and there wasn't a lot of the woman's story in the myth, and I was like, either one, the anthropologists heard the woman's story and they didn't record it. Two, like the men who they likely talked to were like, the woman's story is not ours to share. Or three, that was actually an invitation for me to make the story my own by walking from Souk to Cowichan myself.
Right.
Which is what I did with a girlfriend around my 40th birthday. And so I kept a journal when I did that journey. And so what I'm feeling is maybe like the book, because I have given little tiny talks, not of course delving into like dreams I had and other things that happened when I went on that walk, but that I'm feeling that might be like, well, that is definitely the third body of, you know, thing I want to speak about. But that also, if anything's going to lend itself to a book, I've thought about like that it would be that me walking the ancestral journey. Oh, and I see we got someone else coming on here, but yeah, so I just wanted to put that out there.
It's funny, I just sent her an email going, just 10 minutes behind. I didn't think she can get in. She was in a different room. That's okay, but she just dropped out. That's good.
Yeah, no worries. But yeah, so I just wanted to say, I just wanted to put that out there, because I think that's what I want to focus on in August, which is a bit more personal. Like it doesn't relate as much, like the other things are like things I'm very practically doing in my work, and this journey might end up there eventually as well, but I think that's what I want to focus on when we're away at that retreat.
I love it. Yeah, it sounds beautiful. What I want to leave you with as you prep for your March 27th events is to let making sense guide you, because I can hear that you have you can hold a lot of complexity, and so for you, always having something simple to help you guide the message will be really helpful. And that's what I would let lead, is making sense. And then the other piece The other piece is to remember that if all you do, not all you do, that's too simple, but so one, let making sense lead. Two, put yourself in the position of simply opening the door for people. So like if Shar says, call the mayor because you're an activator. There's actually very little you have to do other than start, like all you have to do is ignite. All you have to do is like, light the match, invite the people, because just being around you is going to get things activated anyway. So you can spend less effort. So if you ended up with a list of 10 things you think you had to do to make something happen, you probably only have to do 3, and the other 7 are going to take care of themselves by you simply starting the 3.
Yeah.
Which might help you with the workload that sometimes we can put on ourselves when we're a machine like you are.
Yeah.
So let yourself make sense. Just let make sense guide you. Trust that you're an activator, and keep working on the communication piece. And it really sounds to me like that. The body piece is just, like honoring your region like a body is where it's at right now.
Well, cool. Thank you for those signposts, Tina O. I've written them down and I'll think about them.
Awesome. And I'll send you an email about about August. What do I need to do for August? Just send you, I guess, a link or an invoice or something, I guess, if you're coming.
Yeah. No, I've got it in my calendar. I'm coming. I've told my husband. So yeah.
Okay. Perfect. Okay, honey. Have a great day.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay. Bye, Shannon.
Bye.